It's 6:02. I'd like to call the personnel meeting to order. Dan, could you take roll call, please?
Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderman Hassan.
Here.
Alderman Holtfer is excused. Dale Weichel.
Here.
Tom Trainer.
Here.
Richard Budney.
Here.
Frank Presko.
Here.
And Sarah Lynn Emmons is not yet here.
Okay, can we stand to the pledge of allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizen comments period. Jesse, are you going to be around for a while?
Well, if I'm allowed to speak.
Well, you're going to be allowed to speak, but we made an agreement that people could speak when their presentation or their item came up. Is that okay with, or you want to, either way? Okay. Is there any other citizens' comments? No other comments? Call that, I'll close the citizen comment period. Item 3, approval of the minutes from 2/19/24.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of 2/19/24. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of staff changes in the Department of Public Works. Who is going to handle that?
Kevin Schluter from the Public Works Superintendent. I'm bringing this forward because I would just like to start aligning the position titles with what the personnel are more doing instead of just a general title. There's 3 of them that I would like to switch over. The arborist, have an individual on the department who's doing arborist work almost daily. Excellent arborist, certified. The assistant mechanic position, that's a position we had years ago. We gave it up for a couple of reasons. Now with our aging out of equipment more often, and older equipment, it's time we bring that position back so that we can try and keep up with some of the equipment breakdowns. We're having quite a few, unfortunately. So the mechanics we have a head mechanic and assistant mechanic. They just can't keep up with it, and we're sending more and more of it out in the private sector to get work done. Foreman HEO position, it's a dual position, foreman HEO. We've had a person that we feel has been working towards earning it, and he's more than qualified, and he worked hard for it, and we just wanted to let some time go by and get him some experience, and now the time has come. That's the main reasons. If there's any questions, I'm more than welcome.
Yeah, I have a couple.
Yeah.
First of all, you're taking people from your department and moving them to different positions. Right?
We're hoping to. I have no guarantees that they'll go for it or apply for it. We have an opening right now as a HEO, a heavy equipment operator. So depending how this plays out, I may possibly have to go to the outside for the assistant mechanic position. That's the one I'm not quite sure on yet, if I would get somebody from within the department.
Okay. Doesn't this sort of say that you're overstaffed in light equipment operator then? If you're moving that person to be a mechanic, you don't need them as a light equipment operator, right?
Well, we do, but I have to go by priority. And right now, when a fire truck or a police squad goes down, that takes high priority, and we got to get that out, especially the ambulance, out the door as quick as possible.
Is this person qualified? I mean, moving from an equipment operator to a mechanic, that's night and day difference.
Right, and that's the one that if we don't, or if we can't fill it from within, we'll fill it from the outside. because like I say, we do have an open position right now, so it's not that we're adding staff, we're just rearranging the titles and trying to more fit what they do. And that's why I say the mechanics position we may have to fill from outside.
One Berber.
Would this involve realignment of the job description and duties if this gets approved? Would we have to do that, or is it all does it encompass there right now, and we wouldn't have to worry about that? Or
It would.
if you're going from the light equipment operator to a mechanic, I don't know if that's in that job description.
We have an assistant mechanic now,
Oh.
so it's just adding on another in the same title. Keep in mind, right now, if we have something urgent to do out on the road, we will pull our mechanics to go out on the road if we have to. That's a last ditch effort. But our HEO, our LEOs, our mechanics, they all work hand in hand, but I'm just asking them to be given the proper title for all.
Any other questions? Is anybody prepared to make a motion to approve or deny the Department of Public Works request?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is, hey, gotta be quicker. Motion made to approve the Department of Public Works request to change the staffing. And second, any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin.
Okay, item 5, approval of the city attorney staff position and a city attorney job description. Jesse, you want to speak now or wait a few minutes?
Up to you.
Okay, well, let's, first of all, Mayor, are you gonna, okay, Mayor, you're,
Okay, so what's been going on last couple of years with looking at costs and comparisons with other communities and knowing basically, are we providing the service and the cost obligation to the taxpayer in the best way possible? And that's why we are all involved in boards and commissions as elected. And looking at, and I'll quote Jesse, is it's not about the who, it's about the what. And looking at the job description that's been provided, looking at the job duties and assignments, and it's comprehensive. I mean, this is a big job, it's a big deal, and this is something that, looking at just on its face numbers is, over $1 million in less than 3.5 years was paid to Jesse's firm, and you're looking at what could we have had Jesse, or could we have had him here as a staff attorney all this time, and would that have been more efficient? And I understand the breakdown. There's breakdowns of everything he's provided in this document, but what we're showing is not only is it his firm, we're also farming things out to other firms. And things that are of HR in nature, are personnel, and are these things that we could keep in-house. So the argument and the position is great. This is what I just think as a whole, the time is now for our city that we need a full-time staff attorney. And that's the way that other jurisdictions are going. And I think it's the most efficient way to do it, because you have this person in-house on staff. And I think for right now, I'll yield, because I know Kelly's going to probably add a few things, or if there's other questions that come through with this. But for right now, I'll yield.
okay. Jesse, would you like to speak?
Whatever.
Okay. Kelly, you want?
I'll let Jesse.
Okay.
All right, I did provide a handout, and it's very brief, etc. And I'll just read through it, speak through it. First time I heard any concerns regarding city attorney service fees costs in 34 years as the Franklin City Attorney. I was first told about this on Thursday, and what I heard was only that it was for a personnel committee meeting, this meeting, not the common council meeting tomorrow also, which I saw in an email Friday morning from an overnight Thursday. Some points of facts. Fees from the firm. Likely the lowest municipal law firm services hourly rates statewide, including uncompensated over budget. A flat monthly base amount set by administration per recollection many years ago, and it was for the first 50 hours of service, with the amount thereof probably was equal to whatever the hourly was. It was 75 or 90. With the amount thereof sometimes increased through the years, as were city staff wages by the Consumer Price Index now, and that flat monthly base amount now equals, divided by 50, $119.96 per hour. After that first 50 hours, city attorney hourly rates are $90 per hour. Those were suggested or requested, I believe, in the year 2000 for the year 2001 budget, which was approved, and for which no increase has ever been requested. Other fees for assistant city attorney municipal court services have been $85 per hour and $60 per hour for assistant city attorney services other than municipal court. The $90 per hour fee is capped at 79.5 hours per month, and hours in addition thereto by the city attorney are uncompensated over budget. Uncompensated over budget for the year 2023 was $64,243.26. Over the years, the uncompensated over budget amount is $695,418.09. And Legal Services Department never requested a budget. Comparisons of municipal attorney services, law firms, etc., or other types of governmental attorneys. Current attorney fees paid to private local attorneys appointed by the Office of the State Public Defender to represent indigent defendants is $100 per hour. That's per statute. A municipal law services law firm in the southeastern Wisconsin area represents some 45 to 50 municipalities as city attorney, village attorney, etc., with an hourly fees rate of $216 per hour, and fees are much higher if it just represents a municipality for one project and not as a municipal counsel for all else. That firm provides no labor counsel services and recognizes a potential conflict of interest in providing such services while also being the municipal attorney. Larger law firms in the Milwaukee and Madison areas known to represent a number of municipalities do so in the range of generally $225 an hour to $250 per hour, etc. Municipalities in the realm of the Franklin population, this was my quick research, and I kept the realm basically around the 30s, thousands, and maybe 29,000 in that realm. And within that realm of the Franklin population that have a staff city attorney and additionally have an assistant city attorney are Beloit, Fitchburg, Manitowoc, Menominee Falls, and Sun Prairie. And Wausau has 2 assistant city attorneys. And one of the Franklin assistant city attorneys took a closer look at what's available information-wise and went a little bit deeper into the number of in-house municipal attorneys statewide, and provided of the 34 Wisconsin municipalities with an employed in-house municipal attorney, only 8 have a singular individual providing services to the municipality, all with lower population than Franklin, and he names them: Great Mills, Merrill, Ashwaubenon, Menasha, Watertown, Muskego, Stevens Point, Neenah, and he does state Oak Creek, but Oak Creek is pretty close to equivalent with Franklin. Then it states, of the 12 municipalities in the realm of the Franklin population, and he does that realm a little bit broader, from 27,319 to 49,929, that have a staff attorney, all, that's 12, all except Oak Creek have at least one assistant city attorney or village attorney. Neenah, Fitchburg, Manitowoc, Sun Prairie, Beloit, Menominee Falls, Wausau, Brookfield, Fond du Lac, Wauwatosa, and Sheboygan. And he states Brookfield and Wausau have 2 assistants. And also that many of these meant above communities also have 1 or more paralegals on staff in addition to department-specific legal assistant / secretary. So, with regard to actual hours, the estimated, based on actual 2023 attorney hours for the city, without full staffing during the last quarter of 2023 at the law firm. One who left wanted to make more money somewhere else. One of the other ones, also being a municipal attorney for other municipalities, Barry did work there. So substantial fourth quarter, less than usual, but based on those numbers, general total hours for attorneys in the legal services department is 283.8 hours per month, which does not include labor council services and which does not include department administration time. Month with on a 4-week basis, that's 70.9 hours per week, and tight fit extended to a 5-week basis, that's 56.7 hours per week. And with regard to what you have done, etc., and qualifications, etc. Regard to qualification and experience, short version is that the city attorney served on the board of directors of the administrative and local government law section of the State Bar of Wisconsin, and was the chairman and immediate past chairman thereof, has been the continuing legal education committee liaison to the Government Lawyers Division 2011 to present, served as the counsel to the Milwaukee County Intergovernmental Cooperation Council, which consists of Milwaukee County mayors and village presidents, and served as the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Municipal Attorneys Institute secretary and its president. Assistant City Attorney Brian D. Sadak also served on the board of directors of the Administrative and Local Government Law section of the State Bar of Wisconsin, and was the chairman and immediate past chairman thereof, and also served as the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Municipal Attorneys Institute secretary and its president. Franklin has been one of the fastest growing municipalities in the state through the years. A lot of work. And just in terms of the record, off the top of my head, I do not recall Franklin Water Utility or City of Franklin ever not prevailing in a case for public service commission with regard to utilities over the past some 30 years. Many. There was the years of quarry negotiating with substantial numbers of residents involved. I don't believe that I hear any quarry complaints anymore, because that process and agreement appear to have worked well for the last plus decades. And just another thought, landfill siting agreement. City attorney negotiated, including with the Muskego landfill for statute back in the 1990s. And then the latest expansion of the waste management landfill occurred from approximately, the negotiation was approximately 2003 to 2009-10, and on completion of that, and I believe the chairman might have been on the siting committee, and I think the mayor was for a time period on that siting committee. Anyway, that agreement was reached, and I recall those who are in the landfill regulation realm saying that that agreement was the most favorable in terms of benefits to a municipality and residents, etc., ever. And I believe the city of Franklin is still receiving currently, about $2 million a year. So that's just a very brief summary of the what. So that's, figured I'd take the.
Yeah, I'd like to say something. Jesse said 34 years, I think it's more than that, but we both started in different jobs, obviously. About the same time when Mayor Miazga was defeated by Fred Clements. We've worked on, I don't know how many different, there was the old code enforcement was the first thing, and there was a couple different landfill sites, and the last one was took years. We had I don't know how many meetings, and every meeting we'd come get a packet of material from Jesse and Attorney Hudak, Pat Hudak assisted them, and they spent hours, a huge amount of hours. Remember when it started, Waste Management flew in with their corporate jet, and off came a bunch of high-priced corporate lawyers. They were not very nice to us at first. They really wanted to take things over, and they started respecting us, not because of me, but mainly because of Attorney Wesolowski and Pat Hudak, and Jesse was the primary one. They realized he had a lot of knowledge and he wasn't going to get pushed over. Like I said, this lasted for years, and all of a sudden Waste Management decided that they better cooperate. There were so many things that came of this, which Jesse put on some of them. They gave us land around the Waste Management site, and they guaranteed us that they weren't going to expand any further there. That was huge. I mean, absolutely huge. And again, it was mainly Attorney Weslowski's doing. I mean, we met together and came up with the idea, took their firstborn child. But it was just monumental. I could not begin to imagine how many hours he put in there. Now we're talking about cost and being cost effective. If we had a city attorney that was on the payroll, that person would have gotten paid overtime. It would have been in the six figures. Without a doubt, it would have been that high. This whole thing, I think, lasted 6 years. It was huge. To say that you're going to save money is a stretch. I don't see it happening. Now, we got comparables. Are they really comparables? How many other municipalities have a quarry in their city? How many have Waste Management? That's a Fortune 500 company. They don't play games. They got cubic dollars. Jesse was the main reason why we are not a city accepting the whole southeastern Wisconsin garbage. And we're getting paid handsomely, a couple $1 million a year. That would have never happened if we had a staff attorney. Never. This can happen again. Now, I think that mainly through Jesse and Pat, but mainly Jesse, kind of got Waste Management tied up at the landfill in Franklin. But we don't have them tied up across the street in Muskego. To have a staff attorney who doesn't know anything and is going to be getting paid overtime for that is just phenomenal. We also have a quarry that's could be problems. I don't know about rock. I haven't been involved in that, so I don't know. But I got to tell you, to think that a staff attorney can do this in under 2,080 hours a year is not happening. Next thing is qualifications. Can you imagine if I tell everybody here we should hire a doctor and he'll take care of your prostate cancer, operate on that? You've got a colonoscopy, he'll do that. He'll do all kinds of surgery. Everybody would say you're crazy and we're not going to do it. Well, we're asking a lawyer in a specialized world to take care of labor law, and when you're dealing with municipalities, it's a whole different ballgame. We're asking them to deal with environmental DNR laws because that Waste Management is that a lot of DNR stuff. We're asking them to take care of traffic court. We're asking them to take care of election laws. This is all specialized. We're in a specialized world. You're not going to find a lawyer that's going to handle everything. You're just not going to happen. Jesse's not going to be around forever, though it might. So something's going to have to be done. But I don't think now is a time or the place. We have somebody who's done a fantastic job at a very reasonable price. All the facts or figures I saw here did not tell me anything. First of all, you're going to hire a lawyer at $200 an hour and they're going to do their own paperwork, or are you going to hire somebody else to help? Well, I guess you're going to have to hire somebody else. So what I saw was not a true figure of the cost of it. Like I said, I just think that first of all, to be able to find a lawyer that can do everything is not happening. Second thing is, are you going to get a lawyer for, I think the figure was $164,000? They're not going to do that. If they're that specialized and if they know all that, they're going to want more than that. It's just not happening. I don't think that there's been any research done to see if there are lawyers available. I don't think that there's anything done to see if we could get one for that kind of money. And to drop this on us with a couple days, I don't think is very good. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make enemies, but my priority is the city, not personality. Maybe and one other thing, here's a person we're talking about morale and everything. Person that's served the city pretty damn well for all these years. And to kind of dump them unceremoniously is not right. Like I said, I think that in the future, I don't know when that is, it might be something to look at. But to do it in 2 days is not right.
Can I comment?
Of course.
So a couple things I've got to clear you on the record, which you are boldly mistaken, is number one, overtime. This is a salaried position. I don't know where this word overtime comes in. So it's not overtime. If they take a position here, it's salaried, number one. Number two, which I should have started off with, was nobody's questioning Jesse Wesolowski's accomplishments. Nobody is questioning his accomplishments, his dedication to the city, and also his ability to he can apply for the position if he wishes to. That's a whole thing that you're not mentioning is, well, okay, these are all great accomplishments, but why not show the interest in becoming our sole staff attorney? Not serve other municipalities, serve Franklin, period. And you're making very subjective claims that, well, you're not going to find an attorney. Well, we don't know. We're trying to bring this forward to say we might try to move down this pathway. We're looking for guidance. If this is something that we're going to hold off on because you want more time to do some research, that's up to the personnel committee. That's why it's been brought this way. You've been provided numbers that apparently you don't believe the numbers are in here. Well, look at the numbers you were provided because those are facts, those are actuals paid out there. Okay, I understand Jesse's document. Nobody's questioning Jesse. It's like there's this twisting here of like we're unceremoniously, as you said, looking to get rid of him. No, we're not unceremoniously doing anything. We're looking here to say what are the options moving forward in the future. Could this be Jesse's being our sole attorney? Do we post it for others to become the city attorney? We need to do something because you can talk about all these cheap things. We paid over $1 million in 3.5 years to his firm. Whatever, those are actuals. And if you don't believe the actuals, then that's on you because those are actuals paid by the city of Franklin to his firm and the other firms that are listed here. Those are actuals. I appreciate and nobody's questioning that about Jesse. Okay, about where we're going with him personally. And I'm glad we got the great history lesson. I was involved. I actually read the motion he said that got us the tipping fees with the landfill. What was it, 15 years ago? However it was a long time ago. And yes, that was it still continues to be a wonderful thing for Franklin. Over $2 million last year. That's one of his many accomplishments. No one's disputing that. We're looking at moving forward factually. How can we best serve the citizens, best serve the city? And I believe it's time for in-house attorney.
Well, okay, counterpoint. This was not presented that it was a study for a future. It was presented, and it's on the Common Council for tomorrow night. That's a huge difference than looking at it in the future. Huge difference. It's saying that we want it done, and we want it done now. We were given 2 days' notice. That is not something you would say if you want something done in the future, or look at something in the future. The $300,000 for Jesse, or Jesse's law firm, I agree with. But I don't know that anybody, you give us figures on dollar amounts, but you don't give us figures on how many hours are spent in legal work. I just don't see somebody going to court every day, not every day, but whatever
Monthly.
court is, spending I don't know how many hours with traffic offenses during the day. I from what I remember, it was lawyers for defendants calling up all the time. It was, hugely taking up time. I know that he spends a lot of time at Common Council meetings, as a lot of people do, and research, everything else. I just, to say that we're going to save money, I don't see that happening. Maybe I'm wrong. Look at it over the next 6 months, 3 months, whatever. And when Jesse retires, be in a position. But to say you got 2 days and we got it already on the Common Council agenda, that's not future. That's now.
I yield to whenever you're done, Susan. Director of Administration.
I just wanted to state that it is what it states. It's the approval of a job description. That's it. There's nothing else on the agenda, on either agenda. It's discussion and approval of a job description. That's right on the council action sheet as well. Discussion and approval.
But that's not what I had on the agenda. Because we hadn't talked about it enough, I guess, because I did have it on the agenda, the way it's written.
And then I think the other thing to really keep in mind that you've referred to that is actually putting the city at risk is that Jesse is getting to that point of retirement, or at least after 34 years, it would seem to be likely to wait until he's ready to leave, to retire, what have you, without looking at future plans, I think is a risk for the city. He's got a lot of institutional knowledge that it would be very beneficial for somebody that's walking in here to be able to kind of download that institutional knowledge, if you will.
I agree that Jesse has a lot of knowledge, but why wouldn't he have been asked to help on the job description? Why was he frozen out? Why wasn't Fred Clements? He's a lawyer. He was past mayor. He was a city judge.
I called and texted Fred Clements 10 times in the last 2 weeks
Okay.
with
But
no
not
response. So I don't
Jesse.
even know he's around anymore.
Okay.
I don't know if he flew to Coop, but
Anyway, if it's open to look at this in the future, and I don't want to get into age discrimination saying Jesse's too old to do it.
I didn't say that. I said 34 years. At some point, I think it's realistic to assume that he's going to
Well,
retire, and that somebody
I wouldn't say that
should-
to a lawyer, but anyway, I understand your point. There might be some point in time when we want to look at it. And if the proposal is, let's do some research on this and see exactly what we do have. I've known Jesse to be 100% honest and straightforward, and you know, if we work with him and say, how many hours are you spending? What kind of law are you practicing? How much time is your assistant spending? And come up with some things that, rather than opinions. I just kind of, it's very scary to me that you know, maybe it could be, I'm not a lawyer, that you could find somebody that's in labor law, environmental law, traffic, and everything else. It might be a little bit hard. There's professors at Marquette University. Maybe we can call them and say, hey, what do you think, you know, is this something that can be done? You know, I agree 100% with doing that, but to kind of drop it like, here we go, you know, you got 2 days and it's going to Common Council and everything else, I don't think is right. I think you're making a hasty decision. So if that isn't your thought, fine, let's, you know, move forward with it. Alderman Barber?
As an alderman, I understand the whole idea of fiscal responsibility. I understand that we should always be looking at options to get better services at a fee that's reasonable for the communities around us. I'm just not prepared to go ahead and say, let's move forward on this until maybe the next budgetary cycle. That's 2025. I think we have to do a little bit more diligence on I didn't see any job descriptions here, maybe they are here, from other cities as to what they all encompass for an individual as a benchmark to cross over to what we have. I think I understand both sides of the argument, and being an alderman, I'm in favor of us looking at it. I'd like to really do some due diligence with it and spend like 6 months making sure that we have things lined up, make sure that we can get somebody for the kind of fee that you're anticipating it would be with the qualifications we're going to need. And I know Jesse's been involved with a lot of other things, negotiations with Oak Creek and things like that through the years. So those kind of things are part of a knowledge base that if there is a transition or a smoother way of achieving Jesse coming on board for this, we wouldn't lose anything in terms of that. But I'd like to see how we can move forward on this, and at the same time get all our ducks lined up in terms of what are we going to get for $164,000. That some person coming out of college, well, he doesn't have a doctorate. Does he have a doctorate, Jesse? I don't know. But anyway, the whole idea is let's look at it one piece at a time. Are we going to get what we're going to really need as a city? And we're a growing city. We've got a lot more demands coming up for us that are going to be an evolving legal considerations based on our growth and the fact that we are a city that's growing both in residential and commercial. So I think looking at moving forward with this is due diligence. I think considering the fact that we are making a transition to something that could affect the future of the city is also due diligence. And that's my opinion on it. I think we have to proceed. I'd like to see us look at it as the Personnel Committee and with Kelly there, maybe possibly with Jesse as some help at this point. I don't know where he is. I'm assuming he's very surprised by this based upon the response. But let's just do caution at this point, because I think we're gonna. I don't know. I think I agree with Dale that we're not going to get someone that's prepared to represent our city for that kind of money as out of the get-go. And then there's what do we lose in the interim? So that's my thought. I yield.
Okay. Richard?
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I get very frustrated with the committee. We do what the mayor had said in the prior meeting, keep kicking the can down the road. The employee surveys, the personal time off, all that stuff is in abeyance. And it just keeps going on. I mean, I can look back last year, we were still talking about personal time off. It's never come back again. Had a room full of people that wanted to discuss it. So I say that if we accept your proposal, it's a very sound one, that we put a timeline on this, that we say if we're going to study it, we study it to come to a conclusion on a set goal, set date, September 1st, as an example. But I would really, I just don't want to see us doing this anymore, where we keep wanting to study things and we never bring it back up. We never come to a conclusion on anything. That's all.
Good point. Any further questions, comments? Jesse?
Just a couple of points with regard to the bottom line on costs. My thought is not who going to hire for that amount of money. It's what services will you receive, and I would guarantee there's no way a singular individual alone can provide all these. And one other thought, there are expenses being an attorney in terms of, the law library and these equipment. I suppose you could share the clerk's copy or whatever, but extra equipment, computers, etc. But there's a number of other expenses law firms maintain in regard to providing these. But on the what basis, it all comes down to what service will you get that amount of money, and will it anywhere near sufficient to provide the minimum service? Fast growing, frankly, still requires. So, I thought.
Just wanted to say that when you look at this is still a position that's supported by the same things that.
Say that again, please.
It's a position, it's a job description that's still supported by the same resources that Jesse has available to him right now, which is the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, who does all of our litigation services, as well as our labor attorney. The thought process is not necessarily bring everything in and have some unicorn of an attorney, but somebody that can work on the basics of labor and employment law and provide guidance, write policies, and basically be proactive in a lot of these things where right now.
So you're saying that a lawyer has reviewed this? A lawyer has reviewed this, or lawyers have reviewed all this?
This was a job description that was gleaned from City of West Dallas's job description. So, yeah, to that extent, yes. What I'm trying to say is that we have resources outside of Jesse's firm that obviously is part of this packet. Those resources, we're not comparing apples to apples when you're looking at that. We're still using the League of Wisconsin Municipalities for all of our litigation services currently, as well as an employment labor law, and that's separate from Jesse. So if we were to bring this, if we were to change the model and do an in-house attorney, in theory, that attorney would still have access to those specialties, such as the League to provide litigation services and the employment law firm. The hope is that we would have less of a need.
I just like to ask, Jesse, since we're all talking, is this a position that you would be interested in taking on?
I don't think it's a one-person position.
Well, if
I don't
you
think
would
it's a
take it.
can-do.
Okay.
I gave you the base, 283.8 hours. That's based on add up all the hours for last year with a missing position for fourth quarter and one that's not doing all the normal hours.
I know. Just my question was real simple. Would you be interested in putting in for the position?
I'd have to look at it, but I'd have to.
Right.
And just one thought on the speed read through the position description and everything, and in terms of being proactive and what's in the council agenda packet also about, the attorney has to be available all the time for staff, et cetera, et cetera. City attorney has been basically available 27, and my leaving voicemails all the time.
Oh, I don't question
Everybody-
that. Nobody questions that.
The city
You don't have a cell
attorney
phone.
answers the phone maybe more than anybody else. So
And you don't even have a
always
cell
there.
phone. No cell phone either.
I keep telling myself that
He does, just for the record, he does not have a cell phone.
I do have a cell phone. I just haven't started it. I did take
Well,
it
he hasn't started it. So when I
because
call him,
I'm holding back.
I call his landline at home and he answers all sorts of. I do it on purpose, all weird hours.
No pager?
He's thinking about a pager. Gotta get the deal out of him.
Okay, just to maybe kind of move this forward. I'd like us to look at the job description and come back with an enhancement for our September meeting. This is all we're being asked to look at today is the job description. I'd like to make sure, and maybe with Jesse's help, make sure that we've got everything we're gonna need in a job description for these people. My concern is we might get somebody that's maybe 1 or 2 years out of college, and he's gonna find out that the job is too much for the amount we're paying him, and he might leave within a year. And then we're in the same position we are right now. So lining up the ducks before we go to that point. I'd like to see a couple job descriptions to see what other communities have as a compare. That's a process that would be, with a timeline, meet your timeline in September. But look at, like next month, look at some of the current job descriptions that are out there to see how that compares to this and get it in advance so that we can look at it before a meeting and just say, are we covering all the bases that we're going to need? Are our expectations realistic? And then let's see if somebody else, I don't know who might be interested in that at that point, but that would be another exploration that would have to be done in terms of a transition. What kind of a transition period to get somebody new on board? Just to share some information, like you mentioned, as a resource, that the knowledge base is not going to be there. And how do we get to that point? Those are options we have to look at. So I would just table this until our September meeting when we can come back with that more detailed or more precise or more inclusive job description that we're actually going to go forward with and know what we're really asking someone that will come on board to do for us.
Would you be okay providing other questions? Like you may have questions. Michael may have questions.
Yep.
To get those to Kelly so we can prepare for the September. Whatever you put out there, we'll get because we got most of the stuff already in here. But then we'll, if you table to the meetings in September, then we'll, take it off on our end.
That would be perfectly. That could be included in the motion as well to get questions to.
Well, do we have to make a motion?
I think we do.
Yeah. Motion to table.
Motion to table till the September meeting.
Okay. With
The proviso
research
that we are going to research
continue.
it. We're going to have materials to research, that we're going to discuss it at each of the meetings in between and come up with making sure that the job description is what we want and what's going to meet our needs.
I guess, I agree with everything that's being said. I just would like to see that there's some kind of I don't want to say guarantee, but, intent to keep Jesse on until he's ready to go. Like I said, after we disagree on the 34 years, I think it's more than that. But anyway, for him to, put in that amount of time and, do what he did and make the kind of money that he made, it sure wasn't me. And to unceremoniously them from, I think is wrong.
Why do you keep saying that? Unceremoniously what? Nobody's getting rid of
Get
Jesse
rid of him.
Wesolowski. Nobody's
Right.
getting rid of Jesse Wesolowski. You said that twice now, unceremoniously. There will be, when Jesse's ready to go, there will be
That's
a
what I'm
ceremony.
asking for.
Big
I don't
ceremony.
think that's, you
At the
know,
Weichel House.
huh?
Big ceremony at the Weichel House.
No, I think we could pitch a beer thing in front of your house again, couldn't we?
Labor Day Sunday, everybody's welcome.
Anyway, I like the
Brett's
idea.
gonna make the brats.
Lloyd's Brats.
Pardon?
Lloyd's Brats.
I take umbrage with the fact that you're saying that he has been longer than 34 years. He's not that old to have been that longer than 34.
I've seen the
Yeah,
letter
he
of
was- he
intent,
was
the
10
offer
when he
letter, it was
started, okay?
1990.
1990 was the offer letter.
I'll go to the library tomorrow and
I think
find
Jesse
out
and I were in
when-
high school together in adjoining communities, and we're not that old.
Always
Okay,
prevailed
enough
over
storytelling.
football.
Okay, there's a motion made to continue research.
To table this until we have adequate time to research and
Okay.
come and make sure that what we're asking in terms of the job description at this point, that's all we're looking at, meets the needs of the city, and it would be something somebody could do.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second. Can we discuss before the final? Can we still set a date that we would have a goal to try
September.
to make a decision by a certain date? I mean, we don't have to say yay or nay in September, but we keep moving this along, that we have a commitment in September to analyze all the information that Kelly
Well,
puts together for us.
yeah, I think anytime you do any of this stuff, as you go along, you're gonna get more questions based on what you found out in the past.
I want to put the requirement over our heads that we have a date to make a decision instead of moving things along.
Okay,
And that
well,
coming to
motion's made,
final
is there,
discussion.
I would say that the September date for coming back with something solid that we can.
So that can be put into this.
Yeah, sure.
Motion.
That can be different. But
and you're second, you're okay with that? Yeah. Okay. Dana, do you have that?
the one caveat I'm adding is that John asked that we get questions to Kelly about what kind of information we want. I know I've got some questions, and I can ask Kelly, and she'll get that information coming into the meeting ahead of time that we share. But we have to ask for the information we want as well. I mean, this is all new turf to us in terms of, and Dana could be involved in this as well, I'm sure, because I'm sure Dana helped with the job description at this point. So we should be able to put enough together to understand, what our needs are and who best can serve those needs.
Would it be appropriate for us to ask Jesse for a breakdown of the charges? As you were saying, there are specialist actions that have to be taken. I'm sure you outsource things. Do you outsource services like for labor relations? Or
Yes.
We don't do that. That's
you don't do
always
that, Kelly
been-
does that?
No,
That's
it's outsourced. To answer your questions, yes, it's outsourced.
City's done
The
that
city does that, you don't.
from before I started in 1990.
So if they contact you and you say that's out of my wheelhouse, then it goes back and they look at somebody.
They don't
Specialist?
contact me because it's
Oh.
always been Labor Council that the city
Oh.
has for the same amount of time.
You're a labor specialist?
Oh,
You're a generalist.
yeah, general city attorney, municipal attorney.
So if they ask you a question and it's something that you don't have the expertise in, but you know that there's an area,
That's extremely rare.
or it is.
I don't get questions on employment, extremely rare.
So we don't pay other attorneys besides Jesse. then.
Oh, yes.
We do.
It's all in here.
We pay,
I saw legal fees, but I didn't see the.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole breakdown since 2021 of everybody. Every firm, everything right here.
Well, that's all employment council, reading it on the run, and then a couple of those, I think were some form of settlement.
Well, we
The
continuously
total
would
cost.
hire, the council will ask to get legal counsel, and you'd have to go get somebody for some of the work. Now, the League of Municipalities represents us, and that's because of our membership, so we've
That's
got,
because of
Right.
your insurance.
Right.
It's insurance
right.
Right.
providing the representation that you pay the premium for, and then when there's a claim,
Yep, so that's
Right,
part
which
of our
we would
legal
keep
fees.
that, yeah.
That wouldn't change.
So this staff attorney isn't going to be
Doing
know
everything.
all of everything.
Right.
They will be bringing in resources if it's labor, different areas that haven't been done.
That are currently being done.
Done by
That's the
other-
process currently,
Okay.
yeah.
but that's
So
not
under the
in the
term-
description.
I'm sorry.
That's not in the description. It's got employment. labor
Yeah, I
law
mean,
in
the hope is
description.
that they would know, be able to answer
A working
basic
knowledge,
questions, yeah.
basic working knowledge of labor.
So we're not
and human
going to
resources.
labor for every single thing.
So we're gonna rewrite that job description, it sounds like, or add things, or take them away, so that's a good point. that
So
you
Kelly,
brought up.
when it says like Cade Law or Rose Group, you'd be able to tell us what they provided. That's what you're saying about there being specificity?
I think those were for third parties. And I'm not recalling the detail on why those got
Yeah.
paid.
No, I was just curious as to what attorneys we need to pay besides your firm for services. That's all.
Well, currently it's any kind of specialty, which would include labor and litigation. The litigation's handled through the League of Wisconsin Municipalities.
So for September, it would be okay with you to ask you what we would be paid, what special services we paid for outside of Jesse.
Mhm.
So that we'd be able to see what additional fees we're gonna have to incur besides the city attorney.
Right,
Well, there's some history here,
right.
that I wonder, it's, for instance, the Quarles and Brady, which is a very expensive law firm, extremely expensive. Who referred whatever case that was to Quarles and Brady?
That was council direction on that.
Okay,
Mike Barber.
And just with the workload, if there would have been more time, the city attorney would have said, we can take care of that, I can. But that question never came up and the direction was automatic from council. Litigation counsel.
now the other attorneys that we have utilized in the past in the law firms, who assigns those cases beyond the Quarles and Brady one, but the other law firms that we,
Only law firm with regard to tax incremental development has been Quarles and Brady. That's pretty much it outside of labor counsel. I don't recall any special counsel being paid for anything else.
I'm not suggesting a council, I'm just suggesting some of our legal fees with various and sundry law firms. Who gives them the cases? Is it Weslowski that does that?
No,
Well, how do they get assigned cases?
council says so, which is extremely rare and percentage-wise of all the work.
We'll discuss it at a meeting and then we'll refer for special help.
Well, some of it
Sometimes.
some of it has been referred via emails. And that's come from Jesse. And then some of it has been accessed without council or mayor approval.
Yeah, I
Not
just
to
see the
my
vendors,
knowledge.
there's 10 vendors, 10 law firms that have been utilized since 2021, and just wondered who assigns those cases.
Not me.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
One of the things that Jesse has always said, that he's not a labor lawyer. So we have typically used outside services for labor law when we did anything with that. Is that correct?
Yes, and before I was hired in 1990, I inquired of other municipal attorneys, and what I was told was you should not do the employment law, labor law. And there already was separate employment council when I was hired in 1990. It's always been that.
So that's.
It's never been a stated issue of any.
It's an additional cost, so.
Well, it's additional work.
Well, no, it'd be a cost to bring someone on to do that work.
Right, we're paying for that. It's mainly under Von Breeze.
Okay, well,
Mainly
there's a
that
motion.
86,000.
Okay,
There's a motion. Do you want a date on that? Does anybody have
The
a?
meeting in September. What
Okay.
is that, the third week of September?
Well, I would hope that we have updates.
Oh, gosh, I think it should be an agenda item for every month.
I agree.
The 20th.
I have that in the
Well,
motion.
June, July, and August.
for the
All right.
23rd.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Um,
Motion
The
carries.
3rd is the 6th.
I'll move to table tomorrow night then.
Just,
Just for the information of the committee, the city attorney is not charging fees for anything to do with this subject. You're aware.
Okay.
It's in the administration realm.
okay. Thank you, appreciate it. Item 6, nepotism policy. Ellie?
So basically, we had talked about this in the civil service subgroup, and then again thereafter with our personnel committees. We just brought back the nepotism policy, added a line that defers to the personnel committee to make any such decision. And the line basically says, the personnel committee, as a part of our commitment to fairness and transparency, has the authority to overrule this policy on a case-by-case basis, ensuring that all decisions are made with careful consideration of the unique circumstances involved. So it doesn't close the door, but it doesn't open the door completely either. It's a case-by-case.
I guess I'm concerned with two things. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't practice labor law. But it seems to me that every time or any time anybody gets in trouble in laws is when you treat people differently. Now, can somebody potentially file a lawsuit because you did it for that person, but you won't do it for this person? Are we treating people differently? I understand that it's subject to the personnel committee to override. But I'm kind of concerned if that could happen. The second thing I'm concerned about is the complaints. We've been saying a lot about morale in the past couple months, and I agree with that. Great thing. But you know, to me, I don't think that it'll be, if there's complaints that, you know, she's the sister of her, or he's the brother, and all this stuff. It's going to happen that they're complaining. You're, you know, giving them a better rating than you're giving me, and it's because you're your sister. Your sister gets these days off. This is all petty junk. It's going to happen. That the rest of the people in that department or other departments are going to be complaining. Is that something we want, or is it advisable just to shut it off? I think that there is going to be them complaints. So are you willing to accept it, I guess? Mayor?
I was going to yield it, but I can start. So I know when we had a hire last time, and what I'm looking for, and I understand what you're saying about the complaints and the what ifs, and it may happen, it could happen, but when you've got arguably and provably the best candidate for a position, and we would have, if it was up to you last time, said no to that candidate, which I think would have been a horrible mistake, because why would you deny her? Because she is a relative here? So we're going to let the best candidate float down the stream to someone else? It's extremely difficult to get people. As Dana will tell you, this is a very tough job market. Very tough. I understand we can put this umbrella over our heads and hope that, you know, we're going to do everything by the way, but times have changed. Times have changed drastically with staffing. I'm not sure if you really looked at this way, but speak with Dana about how tough it is to get people to fill positions. And if we're going to look at a position that's here, and now the point I support of yours is how would we be able to make sure that we don't have a subordinate job like manager type relationship? Because that part I agree. I think that could lead to problems. But we have to look at if we got a great candidate who is arguably the best candidate, how do we bring him in, him or her in? And how then do we make sure that everyone believes they're treated fair? You know how it is. No matter what you do, you're not going to make everybody happy. So you understand that, and I know you do. And I think the thing is how do we protect the city from any litigation, any favoritism, anybody you talk about lawsuits? Sure. And I just think that this nepotism policy being over rigid is going to cost us great employees because they're not standing in line to come work for the city of Franklin. We're not as competitive as the private market. We're not. We can't be. We don't have the money to do it. We just don't. And at any point in time, Dana, you can jump in and tell us how tough it is to hire people because it is. And it is. And when you have what arguably was the best candidate and she was put in question that we should pass on her, that I thought was absolutely ridiculous and an insult to the best candidate that you can't come here because your sister works here. So if that's the case and we have something like that, we've got to look at it case by case and how could we ensure fairness and transparency in their reviews and however we want to do it, if it's down the line for time off or whatever we've got to do to make sure that it's fair and transparent is what we will do. But I think to simply say, oh, no, there's a relation, zip, that's an absolutely crazy way to look at something considering the challenges for hiring. And I can't wait. Dana's chomping at the bit to say how tough it is to get employees. And if she says it's not, then that's not Dana's on.
Well, I'll play a devil's advocate and say how hard is it to keep employees? If
Equally.
that person in that department does not like the job environment, are they going to quit? So now you got a different problem.
Sure, retention's an issue. Sure it is.
So, okay, you hire the employee's relative, and you might lose an employee that's a good employee in the department.
Based
Or
on-
is other department.
You mean that someone would leave because my sister, or sisters rather?
Job conditions.
I don't know.
Oh, well, that's a separate and distinct
I
issue.
think it's a separate issue.
That's a
Who
separate
knows?
issue.
Why
Your
is
job
it separate?
conditions and morale and things
Bless
of that
you.
nature are second issue to what we're trying to do
If somebody
here.
perceives that another employee is getting preferential treatment, a option is to leave.
But you could feel that way regardless of relation to anybody. I mean, there's people that I think long before had complaints feeling like there was favoritism, and they're not related to
Well,
those people.
I mean, okay, if that's accepted and you're willing to take the chance, then fine. But, then just get rid of the nepotism clause altogether. Take your chances. Because it's like saying, the person's half dead. Well, no, either you're alive or you're dead. And this nepotism, we have it once in a while, we don't have it once in a while. That's not good. You should have consistent policies. Frank?
I think, nepotism or hiring someone who's related is always a slippery slope. However, I think it's management responsibility to build in the safeguards through management training, supervisory training, and overseeing situations where there could be those kinds of issues.
Sure.
And you're going to have people who think favoritism is being shown regardless if it's a family relationship or not. And again, it comes down, in my opinion, to the management knowing how to take care of those problems. And the issue of treating people equally, I think, is is never a good thing. As the mayor was saying, you got to treat them fairly. You may treat somebody differently in one situation than somebody else, but there are different circumstances that you're doing it. And again, it gets down to training. How you train your managers to respond to things like that. But to just say we're not going to hire anybody, the relationship of reporting relationship is definitely a real slippery slope. But if you've got, it is a tough labor market, and you don't have that many people banging on the door. So
I'll go before Mike, because it'd be short. Do we define nepotism? I mean, is it siblings, children, or can it be a cousin? Is there a line?
It's in here,
Child,
it's the
parent,
second
sibling.
paragraph. For the purpose of this policy, a relative is defined as a spouse, child, parent, sibling, grandparent, grandchild, aunt, uncle, first cousin, or corresponding in-law or step
That's great.
relation. I mean, it's
It's
pretty much
encompassing.
like,
Very encompassing.
yeah,
the mayor's better not come here and apply.
Yeah, we'd have no fire department if the mayors weren't allowed to be here.
I was saying previous fire chiefs said I
Yeah.
got too many around already, go somewhere
Can't
else.
swing a cat without hitting a mayor.
I guess just one comment from the fire end. Fire service is historically been populated with many generations of family members, and I've worked with many throughout the years, and frankly, I was somewhat skeptical. Is this going to work? Is it not going to work? And the policy that I'm familiar with is that family members, including sons, daughters, were allowed to work for the same department, but they could not be under direct report to their family member. For instance, we had fathers and sons that were on my previous employer. They are all on different shifts. The sons reported to different supervisors. We never really had an issue. I think like the one commissioner meant or had said that even if you don't have a family member, there's going to be people that think, the chief is giving preferential treatment to firefighter Smith or whatever else. But I have been witness to it and have seen it successfully work. That was weird. When they're not under the direct report of their family member.
Yeah,
I've seen good success
with the
it.
change, they could be under direct report.
If approved, if approved.
Well,
The department head could set it up that they were not under a direct report to that family member.
but if this is changed, it could be.
No, you would not have, in a father and son situation, if the father is the supervisor, the son would not report to them. He would have to report to someone else
It could be.
because
No.
In our
you break that
situation
chain.
here, we do have a direct
Yes,
report.
in our situation, we talked about it.
It can be
It is, it would be, if
with
we
the
approve,
personnel committee
it would be allowed.
approval. It can be that a father or son or brother, sister could be under direct supervision of the other.
That's what promoted this whole thing
Right.
with nepotism and what the response is down here.
Right, and that's, I mean, even in the situation that got approval, if you look at that particular situation, there are others that relative could be reporting to for performance, for issues. And that was a discussion that we had that, should there be issues, it could be directed to the mayor, myself, or Dana.
It's rare, but I think that's the smartest thing.
Yeah, my point again is that if you say one person can do it and another one comes along, you say no. Now you're treating people different.
You have to justify it.
I
Well,
think-
justification.
What justified?
I think this was a very unique situation in that we only had, I don't remember what it was, 5 or 8 applicants. This person was the only person that had any of the qualifications for the position. She had worked here before, knew WIS vote, she knew the election laws, she knew licensing, she knew the whole job where she could walk in here and do it from day one. None of the other candidates could do that. I will tell you that we have the opening again right now because we have another retirement in the department. This time we got about 85 applications. It's a shock.
I'm not trying to be a devil's advocate all the time,
You do it well.
trying to, I know, I'm just trying to keep the city out of court. What happens if, two people get married? Now what are you gonna do? They're working.
It's happened. We've had that in the city. We've had marriages in the PD.
No,
The police
Gaylord
department.
was not in charge, supervises.
What's that?
Wife.
We have others,
Huh?
we have had others.
Yes.
That were married, and they have to be on different shifts.
Then they're not under supervision of the spouse.
Correct, we make sure that
That's
they.
what I'm
both-
saying. I have no problem if you have a husband in building inspection and a wife in, the assessor's office. But when one is a direct supervision of the other one, that's where I go.
Have we had any
Kids
feedback
can be-
on the two sisters?
There has been absolutely no problem. In fact, in my opinion, this department currently is running smoother than I've ever seen it in the 18 years I've been here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Boom.
And,
There you go.
You gonna guarantee?
Good night, Mr. Michael.
You gonna guarantee that every time?
I'm going to guarantee whatever you're the devil's advocate on.
I'm still waiting. Do I get a chance?
Go ahead.
Do I get a chance?
What?
Do I get a chance?
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with the firefighters. I think my wife's family goes back to the turn of the century. That's not the 20th century, 21st century. And we'd go up in the attic, or she'd go up in the attic and tell me she saw all the fire helmets lined up all around the walls from the family.
Very common.
That's awesome.
Very, very common.
Yep.
To me, this whole thing centering around relatives is kind of a misnomer. It should be friends. It should be anybody, business associates. I think we can look at it broadly, but in this particular situation, we're talking about relatives. And we are taking it to a process now that says, okay, if we know they're relatives, it should be brought before the personnel committee. That would be up to Dana or who's ever in personnel at that point, that they're doing the civil service, because all these come before civil service. And that's the point where we should acknowledge that something like this exists and it can be moved over to the process, though, for me, is flawed in the sense that you might need to hire someone right away, and now we're building an extra layer of process into this. So how do we do that? If they need to hire somebody and the best candidate is this person, not now we're saying now we have to take it to a personnel committee meeting. I'm just kind of thinking that there must be a better way to do this. Special session or something like, I don't know. You're building delays into this at this point.
well, or just the civil service subcommittee,
Yeah, so
as the.
I think by the fact that we're doing and taking the step, that there is a review of this, it's being brought to us, we can evaluate it on its merits. And I think that's good enough to say, this is why we did it. And I think you can be sued for anything these days.
Right.
But is there merit in it?
Yeah, then that's why this would be something that would be looked at to say, does this make sense in this instance to do this, and what our reasons are? And then, no, it doesn't make sense in this instance, and these are the reasons.
Have we ever gotten a legal opinion? Do we increase the chances of getting a lawsuit? I mean, I'm not a lawyer, you're not a lawyer.
Not at all.
Mary, you're not a lawyer.
I can't even spell law.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're saying what we think should be the law.
Well, we're not talking about law.
It's a policy.
We're talking about policy, not law.
Laws govern policies.
Not
Laws govern-
administrative
No, not administratively.
no.
If you policy anti-discrimination, does the law govern that? That's a policy. Until,
Are we looking for a solution to a problem that doesn't exist, or are we just trying to be oversensitive? I think what you're bringing up some valid points. We all want to protect the city's best interests. We don't want anyone to get sued. But I think Dana said, we have got a very successful story of a hire like this, and why not continue with safeguards, but continue. I mean, it's tough.
okay, all I'm asking for is get a legal opinion. Just make sure that our I think it's right.
Well, we know Jesse doesn't do labor, so we have to
More
find
legal
out.
fees.
All I'm saying, if a lawyer would say, a labor lawyer would say, there's no problem in having a flexible
Reporting structure?
reporting. I'd be
Flexible
fine
reporting
with that.
structure.
Well, why don't we
Where
get it
I'm-
off to an
Where
attorney then?
and I'm not a lawyer, so everybody can have their own interpretation. But where I got a problem is somebody coming back and saying, I was treated differently.
And they have to prove it. The onus is on them to prove it. Not just throw something against the wall like spaghetti
Yeah.
and say, well, I was treated differently. Well, then we look back at the end and say, well, what were the reviews? What
The
were the reviews say?
second thing is lawsuits get awful expensive, no matter who's at fault. And there's lawyers that'll handle that sort of stuff against deep pockets every day. But anyway, so that's all I'm saying is, if a lawyer comes and says there's no problem, fine.
If we want this reviewed by legal, let's for an opinion, let's get an answer by our next meeting, whether or not we're accepted,
Okay.
rather than put it on the back burner here.
Can the league respond that quickly to this?
No.
A month?
We won't go to the league. We'll probably go. We might go to the league. We'll start, but I think we have to go to a different.
We can ask the league to review all our.
We can ask the league, but it won't
They're
be that quick.
currently reviewing our entire employee handbook, which
Right.
obviously this is taken from it, but there's several other employee handbooks that are in front of us. So it's going to take them a while, I'm sure, to do a complete full review of our documents.
Do we
But
know
I
of
can
any
ask-
other
I can ask,
municipalities that have this?
Some have a nepotism policy and some do not.
My thought would be to go ahead and just so we have this red section in place. Mine would be, yes, there has to be some way that if it came up again, and who knows if it's going to be this month, it might be 3 months from now. But at least we would have this in place. So my would be to make a motion to include that paragraph in it, but still go ahead and see if it's a legal kind of process. But we would have that process in place if it came up again in the interim.
Did you want that to be changed to the civil service subcommittee? Because is it easier to get your group together versus the
I don't know, ask
personnel?
Dale about
I don't know
that.
how
Say
you
it
wanted
again?
to handle that.
Would the personnel committee be the place, or would civil service be the place to do that?
'Cause
I would say it should be personnel if it's that way.
Would it be reviewed by civil service and with the recommendation of personnel?
Yeah, for sure. That would be my thought on the president. Dana would come and tell us if that's an issue. We would review it and then forward it with our recommendation.
To personnel committee,
Yeah.
the full personnel
Yeah.
committee.
But we would go ahead with our recommendation at that point, based upon what criteria or what you know and.
That might then
Yeah,
create
that
even
might-
a longer process.
That-
because you
that's a
have to have
longer
2
process.
meetings.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
I
what-
think
Right.
it just go. There's one thing nobody, I think, disagrees on, is if you're gonna hire somebody, you wanna hire them as soon as possible. So if it goes, civil service, and then it has to go to personnel, that's probably 2 months, or longer.
Could be.
So, get it right to personnel. You know it. I mean, civil service, the 3 of us don't even determine that somebody's related. We know that already.
How does that work practically? Civil services has to review all the candidates. That's what we do.
Right.
That's our mandate.
So then, wouldn't it make more sense for it to be a civil service function to determine that?
And that's why we
Versus
brought the last
personnel.
one to civil service, but
Right.
then you had wanted it referred to personnel.
No, I'm just saying that's the way it's written. But that's what Kelly raised. Do we want to change that personnel committee or say the civil service committee? as part of our commitment.
Where if we did
Why
this
don't we just
personnel
wait to get
board,
legal
civil
opinion?
service.
Do it all then.
Because I don't know if it's gonna come up. I don't think it will. Do you know of anything in the
Not very
hopper?
often, nothing in the pipeline that I know
Okay,
of.
then I could say wait,
Leave it like it is.
yeah.
So the motion is to
To
get
leave
legal
it, to
opinion.
leave it as is without the addition until such time as we can get an.
And who made a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to leave it as is without the recommendation of the personnel committee pending advice by legal.
Because, discussion? Discussion, additional discussion?
Okay,
Because just as a background, this is something that came up in the subcommittee. And we raised the issues based upon knowing the details. So this is something that we raised it as well, with the concerns about that, and that's why we're seeing it right now today. We agreed that there was probably some loose ground in there somewhere at the personnel, at the civil service level.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Director of Administration updates. Staffing report, Dana?
Not much on here unless anybody has some specific questions. There's just a couple changes in that we have the administrative assistant position open again because Katie at the licensing desk is going to be retiring June 7th.
Who's retiring?
Katie does
Right
the
on.
licensing and special events.
That means.
So she'll be leaving, which means we'll have an opening up at the front desk. Got lots of applications, we'll start interviewing, and then the other new one is we, excuse me, had one of our public health nurses resign on Friday. So we've got that posted right now, and hopefully we'll get some applicants for that position. Most of the
Which-
others
which
have
public
been on
health?
here for a while.
Which public health?
Kim, hello?
When do we have to have a civil service? Besides
Right after
tonight.
this meeting,
After tonight.
in a
Okay.
couple weeks.
Any other questions on staffing report? Okay. Item 9, future agenda items. Tom study employee survey. Kelly, you have anything to say?
No, we're moving along. The comp study, we're gonna be meeting with the director of finance to talk about what we've determined would be in line with other comps, how we could possibly move forward with that and afford it. And then also just still kicking around the merit idea. Whether it makes sense to do a bonus or what have you. So trying to determine what makes the most sense, what's the most feasible.
Ready by June.
Yep.
Richard?
I'm assuming the personal time off topic is wrapped into the employee survey. We discussed before about it.
Yeah, there's an overwhelming amount that want it to be the way that it is. And my
More
understanding,
changes?
yeah, and my well, from versus what was brought forward prior to me being here, which was putting it all into a PTO pool. So I think it was like 3/4 of our employees wanted to keep it the way it is.
So that's dropped?
I mean, unless we want to have a meeting, because that's kind of what it seems like. And you know, especially from hearing how that meeting had gone and the amount of people that had showed up.
So that will be communicated to the personnel somewhere so that some people aren't
To
still
staff,
wondering?
we can, yeah.
When do you expect the comp study and employee survey to be done?
Oh, we're doing it ourselves. So that adds obviously an element of challenge because just not enough hours in the day to get to everything that needs to be taken
Well, is
care
it
of.
possible to get the employee study at the next meeting?
The employee survey.
Survey.
Gotten a copy of the whole survey. You might have been off those couple
Yeah,
months, but
we have
that was in a packet. That was sent out
Yep.
last fall.
All the questions.
Never got it.
They get you a copy then?
Pardon?
They'll get you a copy? You want to make a copy of my copy?
I can email it to you.
Pardon?
You would have gotten it on email, but I can email you a copy of it.
I would look at my email, if we can get it.
Well, and yeah, to answer your question, we can bring it and talk about some of the the outstanding,
Issues.
yeah, or, just the results in terms of what's a resounding theme here, that sort of thing. Yeah, we can bring it back and talk about that.
All right. Any further questions on that?
Move to adjourn.
Next
Second.
scheduled
Already?
meeting date, June 17th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn.
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. I was just late on my eye.